Okay, great. So good morning, everyone. My name's Alex Embling from Strategic Internet Consulting. I'm the director of a B2B inbound agency based in the UK. And this morning, we're going to be talking to Boaz Grimvold of BrightInfo. He's the CEO of BrightInfo, conversion rate optimization company. And we're going to be discussing the importance of considering conversion rate optimization at the inbound campaign planning stage. It's a challenge that we've had over the last couple of years. We've spent, as an agency, a lot of time and effort building lots of content designed to talk to the clients that we want more of in our business. And one of the challenges we've had is taking that content and getting it to work harder for us in terms of generating leads for us and for our clients. So we went to market to look for best practice solutions on how to generate more engagement to that content. So this morning we're going to be talking about that subject, and really happy to have Boaz with us this morning to discuss that. We're going to be running through a case study as well on a campaign that we've run as an agency over the last few months, and we'll be talking about that. So thanks for being with us this morning, Boaz, and good to have you on the call.
Thanks, Alex.
Yeah, great. So before we get started, I think it's important to just give you guys a little bit of insight into what BrightInfo is, and just talk about that a little bit. So, Boaz, would you want to give us a bit of an overview of BrightInfo?
Yes, sure. So I think one of the sort of best kept secrets of the marketing industry is that the audience that discovers you and goes to your website, your blog, actually the majority of it, typically 95%, disappears and you never see them again, and you only get to know the low single digit of your audience, the percentage of your audience that actually engages with your site, downloads, takes action, buys something, and turns into a known prospect, lead, contact, or actually a customer. What BrightInfo does is automatically leverage your content to engage with that audience, that anonymous audience that you know nothing about, by leveraging your best fitting content for each individual interaction using some smart, all automated algorithm that we built. This way we actually exponentially grow your pipeline from whatever you already have, your existing audience, your existing content assets, and make sure that your investment in marketing automation, such as HubSpot and others, is much more successful because you gain more leads and more insights from your anonymous audience.
Yes, and that's exactly the reason why we came to BrightInfo, is to help us generate insight into that 95% of traffic that is coming through our blog. Obviously, in the B2B space, we know that people are largely looking for help, and that's why the blogs are the most important assets to a modern sort of B2B marketer. So BrightInfo was a great fit for us as an agency because we knew we'd seen great case studies and reports on how they could help impact that 95% as well. So that's great. So thanks for that, Boaz. And that 95% of traffic that comes through someone's website, this is largely awareness traffic, isn't it? These are people who aren't ready to buy yet, that are just looking for help. So the content recommendations that BrightInfo ultimately helps facilitate help drive visibility on that 95%, don't they?
Exactly right.
Great. Okay, so just a little bit about us very quickly. As I said, we're a full-service B2B inbound marketing agency based out in the UK. We're a HubSpot certified partner as well. So this was another reason that BrightInfo was of interest to us as an agency, because they very tightly integrate with HubSpot, our marketing automation tool. And we'll look at that integration in a bit more detail later to show you how you get a full picture of the conversion path from a click all the way through to a customer. So just talking about our conversion rate optimization challenge, it was how to convert more of that awareness traffic into leads. So that 95% that Boaz was talking about earlier. And specifically, as a UK trading agency, it's really important for us to convert as much of that UK traffic as possible. Now, obviously, the nature of the web and how people search and how Google indexes websites doesn't allow you to target traffic specifically to specific geographies. Most people's websites have a split, a large percentage of their traffic coming from the US and India and Russia and all these other countries. So the challenge is how to generate more traffic to your regional relevant traffic to your website, and then how to convert specifically that regional traffic if that's your remit. And this is a challenge that we had. So converting more UK traffic was a big goal of ours, and also how to increase the content engagement and time on page. So getting people to move from one natural blog post to another was something that we wanted to, a box we wanted to tick, largely because of the ranking signals that sends back to the search engines. A big part of the ranking algorithm nowadays is that whole content engagement, time on page, and minimizing the bounce rate, so you become more relevant to the searches that they've clicked through on. So those are two big boxes that we wanted to tick, and we wanted to look for a solution to help. So, Boaz, do you want to talk to us a little bit about how Bright Info can help solve that geo-targeting issue?
Yes, definitely. One of the capabilities of Bright Info is to refine your audience into subgroups. Bright Info in general is all automated and can always serve the most fitting piece of content to each individual based on its algorithm, but sometimes, like you stated, you may not want to really engage with audience that by definition is not a perfect audience for you. So geo-targeting is one of the core, obviously, differentiators. If you're focusing your efforts on a specific geography, you want to engage with the audience in the geography, but you can definitely rule out and not improve engagement for people who are of lesser interest. Other examples could be segmentation by the type of engagement on your site, or areas of your site where you want a lower engagement for some reason, or of lower indication of buying interest to you. So there's definitely different ways to point Bright Info in the direction that's most relevant for you, so you don't get overloaded with irrelevant contacts.
Yeah, and I guess it's important when people are investing in those third-party marketing automation tools like HubSpot, and you don't want to fill up your lead database with irrelevant leads. It's a good way of segmenting out or minimizing the irrelevant leads you get in your database, which ultimately costs you money, because that's where a lot of these guys price. So minimizing those irrelevant leads into your database is a great benefit, and it's something that we've taken advantage of and has allowed us to really focus our messaging on the leads that we want more of in our database. So it's a great piece of functionality there. And in terms of how you see Bright Info impacting that content engagement metric, what kind of impact do you think Bright Info has typically on a website's content engagement, and how does it affect that as a metric?
Right. So we typically see an increase of at minimum dozens and dozens of % in driving the audience to most relevant content. Then a really nice thing about Bright Info is that the recommendations are add-on displays, so that can be easily added to any type of existing website or blog or specific pages, and they can also target individual behaviors. For example, if you have new visitors to your site that get kind of overwhelmed with the existing content and are not sure where to go, and eventually they're heading out the door, Bright Info can target those first-timers with an exit intent pop-up that really suggests the most fitting content to that specific individual, based on our unique algorithm, which I'll talk more about in a few more slides, this way you can definitely save some of the people who would typically disappear and you'd never see them again, get them to really engage with you, get them to know you, and hopefully to turn into a known prospect.
And I guess, yeah, it's about building up that picture of interaction, isn't it, whilst they're on the site, so you can serve up more intelligent recommendations. So that's, yeah, and we've seen some big increase in engagement on our site over the last 3 months since we've been using BrightInfo, and we can look at that data in a minute. That's
right,
great.
right. I think a big, another kind of elephant in the room of the inbound marketing, content marketing space is that once you start to create all this content, you create your own forest, and sometimes that forest, is overwhelming your audience, and they can't see the right trees for them.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. Yeah. So yeah, no, that's yeah, it's creating that clarity, isn't it, of where you want someone to go and what you want them to do while they're on their site. And I guess, yeah, I mean, with the volume of content that's being produced at the moment, that is a modern website challenge, absolutely. One which people are just starting to understand, I guess, now. So yeah, that's great information. Okay, so what I thought we'd do is we'd just have a quick look at a piece of content and a campaign that we'd planned out over the last 3 months, and discuss the impact that the CRO mechanism of BrightInfo has had on that campaign. So what we're looking at here is a campaign that we planned out all around how to plan the perfect inbound marketing campaign. One of the challenges we'd seen in the inbound space is that tools like HubSpot are world-class marketing automation and inbound execution tools. But the campaign's success stands and falls pretty much on what you put into the campaign. So have you built the content around your client's pain? Have you backed up the content recommendations with data? Are you using real existing client data to inform that campaign planning process? So we wrote this, we identified that as a challenge, and we built an ebook around it and planned out a full campaign. So at the awareness stage, we had this ebook with all the tips and advice about how to plan it out properly before you build and write the content and then execute it. At the consideration stage, we had a lead to financial goals calculator tool, which we built to help clients map their financial goals back to lead generation targets. So you could have that connect between the actual financial number and the lead volume you need to hit across channels. And at the decision stage, we have an offer, which is basically a consultation request, helping people build an outline strategy via a WebEx, obviously once we've qualified them as a good fit business for us. So you can see on the left there, that was the awareness challenge, how to plan an inbound campaign that generates quality leads. And the personas that we were targeting were CMOs, heads of marketing of companies between 50 and 1,000 employees, typically 50 million plus. A lifetime value of a customer is typically 200 grand plus to us as an agency. So that was the campaign background. What we're going to do now is just show you the content that we planned and how we considered BrightInfo's assistance in this campaign goal you can see on the screen here. So what we're going to do is just going to skip out to our planning page here, where you can see the campaign mapped out as a whole. We set ourselves some campaign objectives with a typical sales cycle length for us as an agency. And there you can see the ebook that we'd planned out. And as I said, we always make sure that we've got real client data informing this campaign planning process, so that we make sure that the content titles, etc., resonate with the clients that we want more of as an agency. This was the ebook that we were promoting. It's hosted on HubSpot, and all the other supporting pieces of content that we were going to use that are aligned with this challenge of planning the campaign are all here on the screen. We're going to look at one specific one in a minute. The other important planning considerations.
Hey, Alex,
yeah.
So, sorry to jump. We stopped seeing your screen.
Okay, let's just make sure we can tick that box. Okay, so let's just make sure we can see that screen. Here we go. There we go. See the screen now?
Yes, excellent. Thanks.
Yeah, apologies for that, guys. So yeah, there's the campaign objectives at the top we were talking about, and the ebook that we'd planned out, the landing page, the associated landing page I was discussing there, and then the associated blog post content that we'd built around this campaign subject. So all these blogs were going onto our main corporate blog, and we'll look at this specific blog post in a minute. We also made sure that we planned out all of the other specific elements that make up a campaign, specifically the call to actions, etc., that we needed to consider. So, we made sure that at the planning stage we planned out the Bright Info exit intent image, and that all of the other blog posts had images optimized for the Bright Info recommendations at the planning stage as well. So you can see they're all here in our workflow. All the other editorial content variations where we're going to take that content and promote it in other channels with the goal of getting them back to our blog. So the importance of planning the CRO consideration at this stage is vital, and we wanted to make sure that every single campaign element, the title and the text on an image, on a CTA, all the way through to sponsored updates, which we use to promote the campaign, were all considered. So, even down to this granular level where we're planning out sponsored update content, making sure that the message aligns with the personas that we wanted to talk to more of. So, what we're trying to illustrate here is that campaigns need to be planned out properly, and all of the assets that are going to be involved in getting that campaign to work, the messaging of those assets needs to be aligned with the people you want more of, all the way down to those call to action and CRO images as well. If we just skip back to the keynote here, we can show you one of the blog posts that we promoted this content with. This is 6 Reasons Inbound Marketing Campaigns Fail. It's had quite a large amount of attraction, and this blog post as well has been responsible for a large amount of the leads. So what we wanted to illustrate here is that with this subject of how to plan a campaign or reasons campaign plans fail, as we scroll down here, you can see the Bright Info content recommendation, which has been aligned by Bright Info's algorithm that aligns that campaign offer that we saw earlier, so this landing page offer. And this blog post and this call to action plus the exit intent image have been a huge contributory factor to the conversions and campaign results that we've received over the last couple of months. If we skip back to the keynote and we just show the keynote here, you can see some of the campaign results that we received in those first few months. So these are screen grabs from our Bright Info dashboard. And just a bit of context, about 18 months ago, we were getting circa 400 visits to our blog a month. We put a lot of time and effort into our content, like a lot of B2B businesses are doing now. We've produced circa 150 blog posts over the last 18 months, and as a result, we've increased our traffic considerably to 3,500 to 4,000 visits a month now. But you can see on the left-hand side here the impact that Bright Info has had on the uplift in clicks. So the green part of the overview diagram there shows that Bright Info has increased our CTR through to our landing page content, our gated content by 5%. And the most interesting stat here is the impact it's had on conversion. So not only does it impact the click-through rate, but the quality of the traffic it's sending through because of the intelligence behind its algorithm. We're converting at 50%. So for every 2 clicks that Bright Info generates through to our gated content, we're converting at least one of those into a lead. Content engagement, once again, you can see it's had a 6% increase on the content engagement, but the actual impact it's had on conversions as a total is circa 310%, and that's purely by letting Bright Info recommend relevant content to those circa 180 blog posts now that we have on our content. And as Boaz mentioned earlier, seeing the wood for the trees is a big challenge. So the more content you have, the harder it is to map out those clearly defined conversion paths. So having a tool that does that automatically has really helped us. Well, it's taken the load off us in terms of manually trying to align all that content, but also you can see the impact it's had on the conversions there. So just a bit of insight into a case study on our own campaign there over the last few months. This screen grab here is just literally it's illustrating the integration Bright Info has with HubSpot, and you can see via Smartlist. Those of you who are HubSpot users, you can see the integration level here. So very easily you can create Smart Lists within HubSpot to give you insight on the leads that Bright Info has helped impact. And also, once you're into those lists, you can look at the quality by running life cycle stage reports, of which are circa 50 to 55%. So 55% of the leads that are coming through are of very, very high quality and good fit businesses for us as an agency. So, Boaz, we're going to hand back over to you here and just discuss in a little bit more detail how actually Bright Info works. So do you want to give us a little bit more information about the algorithm and the platform itself?
Sure. Thanks, Alex. It was very impressive to see the detailed inbound campaign and how you planned and executed. I think it's really, really impressive. So to talk a little bit about how Bright Info works, Bright Info leverages, on one hand, the understanding with a textual level comprehension algorithm of what type of content you have on your site that's marketing content relevant for your audience. So, the type of blog posts, ebooks, webinars, white papers, videos, etc.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, it's constantly looking at real time at each individual visitor, tracks each individual with a cookie, and tries to decipher their interest with your specific business. So it looks at things like what they're reading on your site, what type of behavior they're presenting. Are they reading a blog post for a while, or are they just staying there for a few seconds and moving on to another topic that is of more interest to them?
Okay.
It also looks at the crowd behavior. So if we think you have a specific interest in inbound marketing, the software also looks at what was engaging for other people similar to you who were looking at the same blog post and how they responded to different offers that Bright Info suggested them in the past. And it kind of combines all of those layers of textual analytics, behavioral, individual behavior, and crowd behavior for each person on your site, on each page, and comes up with the most relevant content offers from your content as a way to keep that person engaged and to drive them forward in the buyer journey.
Okay, that's really interesting. So just on the crowd behavior part of that slide, Boaz, can you just expand on that a little bit and just give us a little bit more information about how that actually works? So you're saying you're using data from other sources around that subject matter to inform your recommendations?
Well, we just look at the crowd interaction with your content. So basically, if you're
okay, so to our site specifically, yeah.
Yeah, so if you're targeting the software industry, then we will obviously at the individual that just came onto your site or your blog, what he's reading specifically under the software industry and what type of content that potentially is of interest to that individual. But then we know from past interaction that other similar visitors were engaged only maybe in 20 or 30% of that content. Or maybe they're highly interested in a specific follow-on when they were reading a specific blog post. So there's a lot of additional data that behavioral data that we can harvest by analyzing constantly your audience interaction with your content.
Great. That's really interesting. So let's just skip forward one here. So how does this all set you apart from other CRO tools here?
So like I mentioned, we track individuals and that type of personalization, a one-to-one type personalization, and the fact that we have a very smart algorithm that's all automated behind it is what sets us apart from anything else. You can, if we look at this simplified graph at the bottom left, you can optimize your site constantly for everybody, and it's a great exercise, and people do that all the time, and eventually, they kind of ratchet up to a certain extent their page views and time on site and maybe conversion rates, and then if they really want to kind of take the next step, there's different type of rule-based segmentation. You can maybe target by an IP address, or suggest certain content to all the people who fall onto a specific page. But eventually, that type of personalization or targeting really targets groups of people and not individual. And so it's not highly effective. What BrightInfo really does is it tracks each individual that engages with your business and offers that person different types of content depending on that individual's interests. So in essence, you and I could be looking at the same blog post maybe on the HubSpot blog, but be in theory exposed to different recommendations of BrightInfo based on how we got there, our geography, as you mentioned earlier, the path we took on that blog, and etc. And the really, really cool thing about BrightInfo is that it's all automated, unlike any of the previous options that are mentioned here that require manual setup and tracking. BrightInfo is an all kind of set and go type solution. You just put a small piece of code on your site, and that's literally it.
Yeah, it is very easy to implement. And that whole rule-based segmentation is really interesting. I've seen a knowledge-based post on your hub recently about using that rule-based segmentation for account-based marketing and how you can target very specific businesses that have declared IP addresses and show content very specifically to that company that's going to resonate with that company. So I guess that's your an illustration of how you might use that rule-based segmentation from an account-based marketing point of view.
Exactly. I think that you're touching on a great point here. The account-based marketing has a lot of hype, and it's really getting a lot of exposure recently, but in reality it only applies to a fraction of the audience that you have that you can actually identify, first of all, in terms of the underlying technology, and really identify that the person from IBM is really a person from IBM, and secondly, you have other audience that are maybe not your perfect audience, but you also want to potentially get to know. So that's the great thing about BrightInfo. It combines a very strong core capability to target all of your anonymous audience, and then you can kind of fine-tune that based on either geography, like you mentioned earlier, just UK residents, or by specific accounts. ABM, and other different mechanisms.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating, and it just opens up the opportunities for targeting as a marketer, and it's definitely one that we're going to take advantage of in the future. That's great. Okay, so we're going to have a quick insight into BrightInfo itself. So at this point, I'm just going to hand over to Boaz. So if you just give me a second here, let's just switch that screen. And
yes, so I just wanted to take a couple of minutes to show you different examples of how BrightInfo looks on different types of sites.
Yeah.
And then show you a little bit of the back-end analytics, because another really cool benefit to running dynamic recommendations is that you really gain a lot of content insights. So in this specific site, it's a software company called Sisense, one of our customers. They've opted up for a specific type of a display here on the bottom right, showing a call to action of a webinar that's relevant for this specific page. Again, BrightInfo does all the mechanics of deciding what to offer each individual on each page, but it's really kind of nice to see how you have different controls and display options depending on how you prefer to engage with your audience. In this case, with Sisense, they really opted for engagement just with the folks that really scroll down their pages and read through.
Sure.
Mary First Mortgage is one of our other customers, and actually I think a HubSpot case study customer as well. Here they're leveraging our side display with the thumbnails as a way to offer relevant content to visitors as they browse. They can also, I believe they're also alternating with the scroll display as a way to drive engagement high. But in essence, again, once you click on a recommendation or you hover, you see an abstract. On click, you get to the right landing page. BrightInfo doesn't really change any of the behaviors. It just makes sure that you see the right type of content. And if you also have an exit intent enabled, you can actually show alternative calls to action to visitors who are heading out the door and you would otherwise risk losing them. So that's just a couple of examples of the flexibility of the BrightInfo displays and how you can use, mix and match different types of displays. Here we're looking at a BrightInfo demo account as a way to see some of the metrics that BrightInfo delivers as a dashboard, as an overview. You get to see that funnel that you have shared with us before, yeah. Alex, and you can see how many content engagement BrightInfo actually amplified over your native exposures, the people who got to your content without BrightInfo, and obviously how many content conversions BrightInfo helped generate as a way to grow your conversion. You can see at the bottom kind of the overview of the content promoted, how much of that content is gated or not gated. Obviously, the more gated content you promote, you'll get more conversions. But in some cases, you want a good balance between top of the funnel and bottom of the funnel content that you promote through BrightInfo, and you have different controls over that as well. You can see the performance of the different displays, and obviously you can see the highest converting content just in terms of the dashboard. But the really cool stuff takes place kind of when you dive deeper into things like content analytics. You can really see, things like new conversions versus repeat conversions, yeah. Direct conversions, people who clicked on an ebook and signed up versus indirect or assisted, people who first clicked on a blog post and then maybe signed up for an ebook. You can see your top as well as your worst engaging content as well as converting content. Yeah. You really get to learn more, and it's all based on the dynamic offers that BrightInfo shows to your audience. So you can really learn a lot, and then you can really even dive down to the individual content piece level, where you can see the actual score for each piece and why that score was given, based on the number of content exposures, clicks, click-through rate, leads generated if it's a gated piece of content, conversion rate. So you definitely get a lot of insights into your content just by the fact that BrightInfo offers that content to your audience dynamically.
And this all happens. Yeah, absolutely, it's great, and this all happens automatically. I mean, the implementation of this is literally it's embed code, isn't it, onto your site, and BrightInfo will then go away and crawl your site and start building up this picture.
Exactly. That's really one of the coolest things about BrightInfo, that all of those benefits are received with literally zero effort.
Yeah, no, that's great, and the insight it gives you is phenomenal, and like I say, you can start to build up that picture of what content is working really well for you and what isn't working so well for you, so you can put a plan and action in to correct that. So, Boaz, that was really fascinating, and thanks for joining us this morning. And hopefully, that's given the listeners a really good insight.
Your presenter notes, if you can enlarge, the main display, we'll see your contact details better.
Absolutely. So we'll just do that. Okay. There we go. So. Excellent. Yeah, I mean, hopefully people found that interesting this morning and understood the importance of considering that whole CRO optimization, conversion optimization challenge at the planning stage, and we've got some really great insight in how you can actually convert more of that traffic that you're generating through your blogs, and getting that content to work even harder for you. People put a lot of time and effort into content nowadays, so it's a really important point to consider as part of your lead generation strategy. So, if there are any questions about the case study or that whole CRO piece, please get in contact with me at these details you can see on the screen here, and be happy to talk further with you guys about it. But Boaz, many thanks for joining us this morning, and let's do it again soon.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me, and I look forward to doing one of these again with you in the near future.
Absolutely.
Have a great day.
Yeah, great. And you. Take care. Cheers. Bye.